Hello again. This is a slightly unusual episode of the Project Cancer because we're going to be covering a specific area which I think is of help to uh, cancer patients and their carers, etc. And this is about circles of support, or what I call onion rings, and who they are and how one builds them up and how useful they are. Again, Lisa and I will be working on this together, so I'll hand over to Lisa now.
The first thing I was wondering about, Peter, is you seem to talk about people that support you that either come along accidentally or ones that you bring in on purpose. What do you really mean by that?
So yeah, the obviously we all have our support networks. I hope we all have our support networks out there, and the immediate ones are your immediate family and the closer friends. What I meant by that is that sometimes there'll be somebody who knows somebody else who can help. Particularly if perhaps you've got a friend you've talked it through with and they know somebody in their own group that you don't know that perhaps has been through cancer or something and can help with some of these things. So that's really what I meant by accidental. A person that you don't necessarily know, or you're speaking to somebody and you realise that they actually, having opened up with them, they can help you in a way that you didn't expect.
Yes, that's really really good. So, talking about these onion rings, the closest ring to you yourself is immediate family. How did you get your immediate family involved, and what can they do for you?
Yes, I mean, for some people this might be more difficult because, particularly when we come on to if one's got children, how one tells those children depending on their age. But for some people, one hears that they would not even tell fairly close family. I mean, it's very, very difficult and completely wrong not to tell one's own partner. But the immediate family, of course, is one's partner in life. And then adult children, I haven't had any experience of sharing my cancer journey with anybody younger than about 20 years old, and that I suspect is a very, very different skill which I haven't got, and I wouldn't even dream of or wanting to even think I could help you with this. But it's the ones that are mature enough to understand it, and of course it's got to be shared in such a way that isn't going to be too upsetting. The whole cancer diagnosis anyway is very upsetting for all of us, but it's got to be done in a sensitive way. So what I mean by the innermost onion ring really is partner, who will accompany you hopefully to the medical sessions so that they can provide a different ear, the ear that's not quite so emotionally involved, because although they are emotionally involved, they're not. It's not happening to them. It's not their cancer. And then possibly adult children, obviously siblings if one's got siblings, depending on one's age, possibly parents, but elderly parents could take it quite badly if a child of theirs is going through a cancer journey. So that's the inner circle. And shall we move on to?
Yes, and then the next ring presumably is quite close friends.
Yeah, so we've all got, I'm sure we all can recognise that some friends are closer than other ones. Some work colleagues can be closer than other ones. And the way I did it was to share it with just a very few friends initially, because I didn't want to. It was very worrying for me that I hadn't got an actual diagnosis at that point. Right at the beginning, if you listen to some of the earlier blogs, then you'll have seen that there was some huge uncertainty for those first 4 or 5 weeks, and one doesn't want to frighten people too much because it's a pretty frightening thing to discuss. So again, went out to the closest friends, the ones that that I'm happy to share anything with, and other people, and they'll share with me. So do that and see how they can help. And then once actually, I think it was only after, I probably only shared it with perhaps 10 or 12 people that I knew well before I knew the diagnosis, because that of course is very different, because once the diagnosis is known, and in my case the therapy I'm on, as you'll have seen before, is working very well, then I found it positive benefit to me, not everybody will believe this or want to do it, to talk to other people about it.
And then there are also friends who offer something very specific. For instance, you have a friend who is a professional therapist, or you might connect with other sufferers who may become friends in the journey. What about friends with specific skills?
Yeah, so some friends whether they're very close friends or not quite so close friends, will be able to help in specific ways. I should point out, in any form of crisis in a human's life, I mean a true crisis, I don't just mean a broken leg, I mean a true crisis like cancer or death of a loved one, etc., then people do feel helpless. They feel they want to help, but they don't know how to help. And those people can either be proactive or reactive. They can be reactive because the person who's sharing, i.e. me, will ask for something, or they can be proactive and offer something. The reactive, and it could be either, it could be it's difficult to say, it depends on the relationship and what the person's like. But the sort of things I'm talking about here is transport or cooking meals or picking up prescriptions or in the case of this professional therapist, just talking it through in a different way. Although we have a close friendship, she's also a professional, and so that helps a lot. She could also connect me, if I wanted it, with other therapists, if I wanted to go direct to therapy, and we'll talk about that in another episode.
So these are all people you basically already know or get to know in the sort of wider world. What about support, your circle of support that includes the professionals, such as the NHS staff or maybe private medical staff, or maybe charities? Where do they come in and what have they meant for you?
Yes, I've just realised I've forgotten something about, you mentioned, Lisa, about other cancer sufferers. So talking that through with them, not necessarily, there's only one person I know actually who has exactly the same mutation, and that's chair of the charity that was set up for this mutation. But talking it through what they've gone through, even though it's not the same journey in terms of the therapies or how ill they are or maybe the prognosis, you learn a lot about dealing with the professionals. So the professionals here are, of course, one's dedicated oncology team, specifically the oncologist and the people that support him or her. Building up a relationship with those is really important for both sides. One, you want to be a good patient, a patient they want to help, and of course, you know, in the end, we're all unfortunately statistics in the system. At the same time, you want them to be proactive if there's something they can help with. So actually, it's really difficult because there you're in deep shock initially and potentially grief about, you know, why you were the one with cancer, but at the same time you want to try and maintain that relationship. And that applies not just to the oncology team, it also applies to others. So for instance, the physiotherapist, I had some time with a neuro-oncology physiotherapist who, because as the tumour was growing, it actually did a bit of brain damage. So she wanted to retrain me, so I rewired my brain slightly, which in fact was successful over a 3 or 4 month period. So yeah, building up these relationships and knowing who's what. And in my case, because I'm so driven by numbers and spreadsheets, I have a spreadsheet for doing that.
So, and then lastly, can you just talk briefly about the support you have or have not received from charities?
Yeah, so I haven't actually, although the Macmillans is an organisation that I looked at online, I haven't actually reached out to them. So the only charity, apart from doing some research on lung cancer, the only charity I've really got a lot from was the charity set up by a lady called Angela Terry, who, not set up, but she's the current chair of that, who I've learnt a tremendous amount from. So I hope that's enough over the circles of support, and we'll move on to another subject soon. Thank you.